Hey, what is up, fellow Raiders? This is Vulcan Dan, and we have this Summon Rush coming in about 17 hours. And you know what that means. We have another times 10 Shard weekend. And of course, this one is also for Vlad the Nightborn fragments. Alright, let's get to the champions. Firstly, we have Seeker. Now I have really fond memories of this guy back in the early game. He was one of the first epics that I pulled, and he is super useful in the arena with this turn meter fill on his A2. That's huge with a 30% and 50% increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, plus grants himself an extra turn. So he can be a very good speed booster for your arena team, and he will also, after this skill, he will immediately go to his A1, which can provoke the enemy champion. So I always try to target their speed booster, whether it's a Haikatoon, their Lysandra. So yeah, or maybe an enemy seeker. So yeah, so this champion right here is one of my favorite. Have really fond memories of this guy. Plus, in case you didn't get to go first, he does have this nice passive that is more of a defensive passive. He heals himself by 20% of his own HP and places a 60% increased defense on everyone for 2 turns when he is hit with a critical hit. Of course, in the arena, you are most likely going to get hit with a crit. So yeah, so he's very good for both offense and for defense in the arena. And of course, there's also a lot of use for him in clan boss teams. Alright, so that's the first one. And of course, the theme for this times 10 event is a grants an extra turn. So all of these champions can grant themselves an extra turn. Second one is Anax. This guy, everything single target. He does have a lot of debuffs, decreased defense, decreased accuracy, poison, and weaken. But everything is single target, so he works well in boss fights. And his grant an extra turn is on his passive. He does it when his HP drops below 50%, and he has additional buffs whenever his HP drops below a certain percentage. He's probably my least favorite among the epics in this times 10, but he does well in boss fights. He is a little bit squishy and quite slow, so you do need to bring a reviver or a healer if you plan to use Anax. Next one that I want to talk about is Knight's Revenant Void Epic. Now we do have 2 Void Epics in this times 10, which is quite rare. We usually just have 1, but we have 2 this time. First one is Whisper, very cool cyberpunk looking champion right here. She was once part of a promotion with Amazon Prime. You get a free Whisper if you have a subscription to Amazon Prime. I think this was around two years ago. All right, everything she does is also single target. She has a weaken on her A1. She has a self buff, increase attack and increase crit rate on her A2 plus. This A2 hits really hard because she ignores defense if the target is under a weaken, which of course she does on her A1. So this is a huge hit. Not as hard hitting as a Royal Huntsman, because Royal Huntsman has a similar skill on his A3 that ignores 100% defense. She has a lower attack than him, and this has I think if I remember correctly, a 3.8 multiplier, but yeah, still hits really hard. Plus she also buffs her attack along with the skill. So yeah, so very good skill right there. And she will grant an extra turn on her A3 if the target is under decreased defense and weaken. Now, she does not bring decreased defense on her own. So for this A3 to have use, you really have to bring another champion that brings that decreased defense. Plus, she has a chance to grant an extra turn whenever she crits. So of course, she's an attack champion. You need to build her up with 100% crit rate, and she deals more damage with bosses. She is all single target like Anax, so she does work well against bosses. So she's not much use against waves. She can be very useful for early to mid game clan boss, but towards the late game she does tend to fall off a bit. All right, next one, or the last epic, is from the dwarves. Our second void epic is Gala Longbraids. Now I really love this champion because I've used her quite a bit in arena, especially in tag team arena, and also back then in classic arena, back then when Rotos was everywhere, because she has this triple hit A3. And of course, it's annoying that for Rotos, you need to hit him at least twice because of his passive. So this gal hits 3 times, and it hits really hard because she ignores 25% of the target's defense and grants an extra turn if this champion has full HP after using this skill. So if in the arena you go first, you're most likely going to have full HP, so you immediately get an extra turn. So even though all of her skills are single target, she does hit hard, and on the first turn, assuming she has full HP, she gets to go twice. After this skill, she would use her A2, which hits really hard, attacks one enemy, ignores 50% of the defense when attacking under a shield buff. I build my Gala with Divine set so that she has a shield, or you can bring someone with a shield set to give shields to everyone to take advantage of this one. But she does place shield on herself with her A2 and also her A1. So yeah, but of course, for that first turn to take advantage of this, better to have that shield immediately when the fight begins. Right, so really fond of this champion, really good for arena, also great for faction war. She does hit really hard even though she is all single target. All right, so those are the 4 epics. Let's go to the legendaries. First one is Kandra. Yeah, one of the best arena nukers in the game, also a very defensive champion. It's weird that he's a very defensive and also offensive champion. This is because he works with Veil. So if you bring him with a Duchess, which I was fortunate to have, so I have a Duchess here and a Kandra here, so they work very well together in the arena and also in faction wars. He hits really hard with his A2. This is an AoE hit and grants an extra turn and resets the cooldown of his A3 if this attack kills an enemy. I don't really care about his A3 in the arena. I actually turned off his A3 because this is simply a self buff. Even though it's a very good buff, but it's I feel that the turn is wasted on this skill because I have my Duchess granting him that Veil, but he does place this Veil on his A3. But this skill, it hits really hard because paired with his passive, if he is under a Veil, he will boost his own damage by 40% when attacking under a Veil or perfect Veil. So this hits really hard and plus grants an extra turn. Now, if you turn off your A3, well, if you don't turn off his A3, he will go and use his A3 after doing his A2, which I really don't like. I wish he would use his A1. So that is what I did for him in his AI for the arena, because usually when you go against highly defensive teams, you do an AoE hit, then probably 1 or 2 of the champions are still alive. Then he can use his A1, which hits really hard if they have buffs. So maybe they're under an increased defense buff, which is usually the case if he fails to kill the enemy. So yeah, so this is one of the best or the most hard-hitting A1s in the game. So yeah, so I really love this champion. Also a really cool design. Back in the day, he was regarded as one of the worst champions, and then he got a buff. I was fortunate to get him after the buff, so I didn't really get to see him when he was really bad. But yes, really happy about that champion. Next one, we have Brackus the Shifter. I don't have him. I don't have any Skinwalker legendary, unfortunately. But yes, another really cool looking champion. This guy came out when I entered the game around 2 years ago, back in October 2019. I do seem to remember such a cool looking champion, but of course, since I was just starting to play Raid, I was not able to fuse him. And yes, he was a fusion champion. This guy has a 6-hitter on his A2, which is crazy. I don't think any other champion in the game has a 6-hitter, and he places weaken and heals himself with this one. And he has this A3 that attacks 3 times and places increased attack on everyone, plus has a chance to place fear on the enemy. His grants an extra turn skill is on his passive. This happens when he dies. So when he dies, he revives himself with 20% HP, and then he will immediately grant himself an extra turn. So he will retaliate to that enemy that killed him. So it's a very cool champion, very cool looking, and I hope to pull him soon. Maybe this weekend. I'm not sure. I don't really need to pull shards, or I don't really want to pull shards this weekend, but I kind of have to because we need at least 5 fragments for Vlad the Nightborn from this summon rush, because if not, we will be short on those 5 fragments for the whole event. So yeah, so we will have to see tomorrow how many shards we need to pull for this summon rush. So I might need to pull mystery shards or maybe a few ancient shards. We will know tomorrow. All right, next one is from the Shadowkin faction, which I also have, Gintoro. Now this guy is a boss killer. Single target, single target, and especially his A3 will attack 5 times instead of 1 every 4th use of this skill against the same target in 1 round. So perfect for boss fights, perfect for the clan boss, for those really long extended fights. Also brings a decreased defense and weaken. His extra turn is from his A1, so if you're using him in the clan boss, of course, this one will not proc against the clan boss. But yeah, he is really made for boss fights, and he has a cool passive that will fill his turn meter by an extra 50% when you use a turn meter fill on this guy. Plus, he has a nice all battle attack aura by 29%. Very helpful for the clan boss as well. Alright, and the last one, last champion, the Void Legendary, which I don't have, is Ethos. Yeah, he's a very cool champion, one of the hardest hitting, and you probably see him a lot in the arena because of his A3, attacks all enemies, and this attack is always critical. You're going to build him with 100% crit rate anyway, so this is pointless right here, but this hits really hard. You're going to build him with 100% crit rate because his A2 does not have that always crit feature, but this one hits hard as well. So in case someone is still alive after his A3, he can go to his A2. This attacks all enemy 3 times. Places the weak version of weaken, so I don't really care for this. So don't build him with accuracy. Just build him really fast and hit really hard, and that's all you need from Ethos. And yeah, his grand extra turn is on his A1. So yeah, those are the times 10 champions this weekend. And as what I have said, I'm not really, it's nice to have Ethos, but as you can see, let's go to my Void Shards. I only have 3 Void Shards because we just had a times 2 Void event. So I'll probably not pull Void Shards, and I don't really need any of the other champions. I have all of the epics. I have Gintoro and Kandra. The only one I don't have for the non-voids is Brackus. So yeah, so I might pull some ancient shards tomorrow, we'll see, and I would love to have a Brackus if I get lucky. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one.